Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to KSR's rapid reaction of Kentucky's 74-57 win over Ole Miss. Number 18 Cats beat the number 14 Rebels. This is a really big one for the NCAA tournament resume. Kentucky, it's kind of in the situation, it is what it is for the SEC tournament. But for the big dance, right, for the NCAA tournament, Kentucky needed a win today to put themselves back in position to host the first two rounds. Last night, right before the LSU South Carolina game, we saw the first top 16 seeds bracket reveal, and Ole Miss was in there at a 4 seed, number 15 overall. Of course, it's the top 16 overall seeds we're talking about, and Kentucky was just on the outside. I wish ESPN actually showed, or like the committee made it available, like where Kentucky would have been. Like, were they the number 17 seed, 18 seed? What were they? But regardless, Kentucky, right on the outside. Charlie Cream in his latest bracketology had the Cats as a 5 seed. So you knew they were close to hosting, even with the losses while Tiani Key was out. And Kentucky responds to, some demoralizing losses. They respond to, the 1-point loss to Vanderbilt. Man, if you win that one, you're hosting, right? Like, Kentucky was in this position where you're playing the higher ranked team today, the higher seeded team, and you're sitting there thinking to yourself, okay, like, for hosting purposes, this is a must-win practically, right? Like, if Kentucky seriously wanted to host in the NCAA tournament, you had to win. And Kentucky got the job done. And not only did they get the job done, they really dominated, right? Kind of early in the game, it was close. And in the second quarter, over a 7-minute stretch, Kentucky goes on a 19-0 run. They get up by as much as 24. I believe it was 39. Will that be 39-15? Yeah. And you're sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, this Kentucky team, like, I've talked about how Kentucky's been so close to being that top 10 team they were with Tiani Key before she got hurt, like the LSU game, for example. And I was like, man, they're here. And then you see kind of towards the end of the first half, you see towards the third quarter, even fourth quarter, Ole Miss cuts the lead down, and all of a sudden it's 57-51, right? This 24-point lead that Kentucky had suddenly was trimmed down to 6. And, Kenny Brooks calls timeout in that moment. And, of course, Kenny doesn't call timeouts, right? But you sit there and think to yourself, is Kentucky going to squander this opportunity? Like, is Kentucky going to find a way to blow this 24-point lead? And all of a sudden, the final score is 74-57. So Kentucky goes on, what is that? That's an 18-6 run to end the game, right? And that's that 18-6 run and the 19-0 run in the second quarter. Those moments, right? That to me said, okay, Kentucky, for one, I think they're back, right? Like, I think, you took a demoralizing loss to Vandy. That's a top 5 Vandy team. Actually, they did lose to Georgia today. It's a pretty good Georgia team, borderline top 25. But point being, like the loss of Texas, you just look at Kentucky's resume since Tiani Key's been back, and it felt like they were knocking on the door of being where they were. And I think Kentucky's back. Like, I think this is a win that you needed to get, not only, like I said, for the resume, but you're playing your best basketball heading into March, right? Like, that's what's happening right now. That's something, all off season long, during the summer, during the fall, early in the season before SEC play. Of course, that's something we talk about, is you just want to be playing your best basketball. And Kenny said in his post-game press conference, and I thought it was interesting, how this time last year, Kenny was very focused on the seeding aspect, right? He was very focused on, we need the double bye in the SEC, we need this, we need that. And right now, Kenny said, and kind of as I had said a second ago, was we just need to be playing our best basketball. We just need to be playing, at the elite level that we know we can play at heading into the big dance. And, Kentucky got some special performances today. I thought it was interesting. Ole Miss's head coach, Yolette McCuin, also colloquially known as Coach Yo, a little bit easier to say, right? A little bit easier to know. Coach Yo was saying that she thought the main difference in the game was actually Asia Boone and Amelia Hassett, who combined for 7 threes. And I'll say this about Asia Boone. Ever since they plugged her into the starting lineup, like she's been just as good. Like the Kentucky offense, and I talked about it when they're following the Texas game, how Kentucky needed these fast starts, how Kentucky needed, you know, to come out and with Asia Boone in the lineup, get out to bigger leads to begin the games, right? Because Kentucky is kind of prone to these droughts every once in a while. And they did that. And, they got up to a big lead. Obviously, the 19-0 run got up, 27-5 at the end of the first quarter against A&M. Like, that's why you put Asia Boone in the starting lineup. And you bring Jordan Obi off the bench, and, like, she is having more impactful minutes when she's in. I don't think she scored. She had 8 points, 8 rebounds against A&M. I don't even know what she had today. She did hit some shots, But I think the main thing is, even if it's not a massive difference in the points, it just feels like Jordan Obi's minutes are more impactful right now. Claire Strack had, again, one of her best games in a while, right? 28 points for her. You could tell Ole Miss, she had the height advantage. But, in that first half, Ole Miss was really just trying to, I think Kenny even said the word, like, play conservatively a little bit, where, you just don't want to give anything up, right? You want to kind of play it safe a little bit. And when you're down 24 points, now you got to kind of claw back and fight back. And as I, mentioned during the game on our message board and on Twitter, like, Ole Miss tried to muck things up. And, of course, they actually did a really good job at doing that, obviously, with the lead getting down to 6, but I think while mucking things up, it opened things up for Clara Strack down low. You have 4 players trying to fight for a rebound. Well, it falls in Clara Strack's hands. She can get the layup. Claire did a really good job of, like when her shots were being contested and blocked it early on, she started to shot fake. She started to get to the hole, and like she created looks for herself. She hit some big free throws. I don't know what the final total ended up being for Kentucky, but I know at one point they were 8 for 8 on free throws. So, that monster was gone. Like, the free throw shooting woes were gone for today's game. The turnovers were, about even, but Kentucky, I think it was like 22 to 8 in favor of Kentucky in points off turnovers. And look, that's Kentucky took care of the basketball better today. Of course, there were times where they didn't do that. Like, there were times where it was rough still. But at the same time, Kentucky forced turnovers, and they scored off them. And it reminded me a whole lot of the team we saw in the non-conference early in SEC play. So, for me, the big takeaway is just that Kentucky, like, it feels like Kentucky's kind of back, right? And that feels so good to say because, you got 3 more games left in the regular season. So Kentucky now has a week-long bye before they go on the road and play Vanderbilt, who, yes, just lost to Georgia. Obviously, we all know they beat Kentucky by 1. They blew out Texas. Like, Vandy is a very good team. I don't think you need me to tell you that. Ole Miss beat Vandy. Kentucky just beat Ole Miss, right? Like there's a lot of different things you could say, but we know Vanderbilt's a good team. We've seen it, right? We know Michaela Blakes is awesome. We know Aubrey Galvin is awesome. We know that whole team is great. But, you go on the road at Vanderbilt, which is it has gotten better as a women's basketball environment, but it's not anything crazy, right? Like, Kentucky can go out down there and win that game. Even if they don't. Okay, you take care of business against an Auburn team coming up, right? On the road, I know, but it's an Auburn team you should beat. And you win that one, you feel good, and then you go, of course, play South Carolina at home, and that's going to be a tough matchup no matter what, right? Doesn't matter if that game is played on Mars, it's going to be tough for Kentucky to win that game. But you know what? I don't see why they can't have a shot. But point being, you've now, with this win, first of all, you're back to 20 wins, right? 20 wins in Kenny Brooks' first 2 seasons at Kentucky. Not too shabby. But now you've put yourself in this position where, okay, you got like, today was the must win, as I've said a couple of times, right? Like, today was the one you had to get. And so now, if you lose at Vandy, well, you just lost to a top 10 team on the road, right? If you lose, if you lose at Auburn, then you're kind of screwed. But that shouldn't happen, right? You should beat Auburn. So you beat Auburn, then you play South Carolina, and look, you lost to a top 5 team again, right? So I think Kentucky, assuming they go beat Auburn, and they take care of business there, and you see how they do against Vandy and South Carolina. Man, I think Kentucky's just about safe to host, right? You probably, of course, you're looking at the SEC tournament. Maybe you need a win there. I don't know. But point being, man, you just got the big win you needed today. And, when big plays had to be made, they were made, right? Clara Strack, Asia and Amelia Hassett. Tony Morgan had 14 points. Like, when Kentucky needed to come through, they did. So, Cats got the 74-57 win. Really close game later in the fourth, and then Kentucky goes on a run to end the game to make it a wide margin again. That's going to look good on a resume, right? So, again, I think Kentucky flips with Ole Miss, in the top 16. Kentucky is a 4 seed probably now, but at the same time, hey, a 4 seed's a 4 seed. Like, obviously in a perfect world, you're a 3 or a 2, but hey, 4 seed means you're hosting. It means the first 2 rounds are right here at Historic Memorial Coliseum, and you'll take that just about any day of the week. So I'm Phoenix Stevens here with KSR's Rapid Reaction. We'll get warm inside, bring you all more post-game content. If you've enjoyed this Rapid Reaction, like, comment, subscribe, do all those wonderful things for us. I appreciate it. Stephen Peak appreciates it. We all greatly appreciate it. Again, thank you all so much. Go Cats.